Tonight on KGW News, nearly 40 years after the crime, a jury convicts an Oregon man for his wife's murder.
The case is never cold. There's always additional information that can come to light.
The key evidence, prosecutors say, finally led to justice. Plus,
very just overwhelming today.
Another on-campus shooting, and this time in Florida. How authorities say the 20-year-old suspect is connected to law enforcement. Then,
the government has to treat people fairly.
As an Oregon State student who had his visa revoked takes on the federal government. And later, rolling out the red carpet as the Barlow Bruins celebrate becoming state champions. Welcome to the news on this Thursday. I'm David Molko. First at 11, a decades-long cold case finally closed after a Washington County jury today convicted a man for his wife's murder nearly 40 years after she was killed. Catherine Cook spoke with the lead prosecutor just after that verdict came down. Catherine?
And David, she's obviously pleased. The jury deliberated for 6 hours before reaching their unanimous verdict. Robert Atrops guilty of second-degree murder after getting away with it for 37 years.
We're, very happy to be able to get resolution for Debbie, our victim, and for her family.
A moment of victory for the Washington County DA's office. It followed 37 years of wondering what happened to Debbie Atrops. On Thursday, a jury found her estranged husband, 70-year-old Robert Atrops, guilty of second-degree murder. In 1988, Debbie was found strangled to death in the trunk of her car. The case went cold until 5 years ago. That's when detectives uncovered new DNA evidence that prosecutors say tied Atrops to the murder. Lead prosecutor Allison Brown says it was one of several pieces that helped prove their case. The biggest one? Motive.
He learned that she was having a relationship with somebody at her work, and she had actually told family and friends that if he finds out about this relationship, he will kill me. And that was within a week of her murder. She said that he had found out and had asked her about it.
Prosecutors say the man Debbie was having a relationship with cooperated with them, both in 1988 and more recently. But not long after they asked him to testify in the trial, he died by suicide. Brown says investigators are confident his death was not tied to the case.
He had his own issues of his own that he was dealing with. He was elderly. His health was declining.
During closing arguments this week, the defense challenged prosecutors, suggesting investigators' sole focus on Atrops led to missed opportunities.
They did everything that they could to charge Mr. Atrops in 2 years before the case went inactive, for the same reason that Mr. Atrops didn't kill his wife.
There wasn't just one motive. There are multiple motives.
And, says Brown, multiple pieces of new evidence. That includes something called forensic soil. Brown says Debbie's body and car were covered in mud, which FBI lab tests tied to the defendant's home. Altogether, it was enough to convince a jury of Atrops' guilt and remind Brown of another key fact.
A case is never cold. There's always additional information that can come to light.
Atrops will be sentenced on May 20th. Prosecutors will ask the judge for life or a minimum of 25 years. In the meantime, Atrops remains lodged in the Washington County Jail. David, back to you.
37 years on. Catherine Cook in the newsroom tonight. Thank you, Catherine. Well, now to an update on what's been our top story the last 3 nights, because today the man who was arrested after 2 police standoffs in Northwest Portland pleaded not guilty in court. 44-year-old Raul Nava Jr. was originally wanted for identity theft. When police went to arrest him on Monday, they say he pepper sprayed an officer and then threatened them with a knife. After a nearly 3-hour standoff, police decided to back off. Then officers came back yesterday to arrest Nava in his tent. He's now facing additional charges, including attempted assault of an officer and menacing. Court records show Nava also has cases pending in Clackamas and Washington counties.
It was just very loud gunshots in the building. So I ran into there with a couple of other people, maybe 8 other people, and then we set up a barrier of trash cans and cardboard.
That's the reality. Students at Florida State University in shock tonight over a shooting that left 2 people dead and injured at least 6 others, with a memorial growing on campus throughout the evening hours. That comes as authorities release new details about the shooter, including where he got a gun. Riley Phillips has the latest from Tallahassee.
Law enforcement providing a clearer picture of the events surrounding Thursday's deadly shooting at Florida State University. According to FSU Police Chief Jason Trumbauer, the suspect opened fire near the student union around 11:50 in the morning, shooting multiple people.
FSU police responded immediately, engaged, neutralized, and apprehended the shooter.
The suspect has been identified as 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner, a student at Florida State. His stepmother, a deputy with the Leon County Sheriff's Office. Leon County Sheriff Walt McNeil confirmed the gun used in the shooting is believed to be her personal firearm.
He has been steeped in the Leon County Sheriff's Office family, engaged in a number of training programs that we have. So it's not a surprise to us that he had access to weapons.
Eichner was also a member of the Youth Advisory Council for the Sheriff's Office when he was in high school. Investigators were not aware of any threats or behavioral concerns prior to the shooting. Eichner was taken to the hospital for treatment. Law enforcement officers did not provide any more information on the 2 people who were killed or the other victims who were injured. FSU President Richard McCullough was emotional during Thursday's press conference, providing this message of hope to the Florida State community.
We're a strong and united community. We're family. And so we'll take care of all of you. And we'll get through this together.
Riley Phillips reporting there. Authorities have not given a motive for that shooting. Back in the Northwest, threats have canceled classes tomorrow at Silverton High. Police saying they got a computer-generated call earlier today about an incident at the school, but after investigating, say there was no threat. There's also an implied threat. That's what police are calling it, specifically on the high school for tomorrow. So out of an abundance of caution, the district called off classes and after-school activities. Again, this is just for the high school. Silverton High, by the way, also went into lockdown last week after a report of a possible shooting that officers also found to be not credible. Police are still investigating. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office has identified the missing kayaker who witnesses saw go over Willamette Falls. He is 20-year-old Marcellus Angelo Rodriguez from Porterville, California, who'd arrived in town Saturday night with his family. The Sheriff's Office saying several people called 911 after seeing him in distress. One witness saying he tried to swim to shore. His body still has not been recovered. TriMet is warning of potential service cuts depending on how the state budget shakes out this session. It says the current amount of funding in the state's transportation package isn't enough to even cover costs. TriMet says it would have to start cutting service in 2027 and then every 2 years after that until its budget deficit is resolved. TriMet and the Oregon Transit Association are now calling for a small tax increase to avoid those cuts. That would involve a state tax that already comes out of paychecks. And new at 11, Portland City Council is siding with those appealing a PG plan to cut down trees in Forest Park to make way for more power lines. After more than 5 hours of testimony today, councilors voted unanimously in favor of the appeal. We understand they still have to take a second vote next month. PG wants to cut down nearly hundreds of trees near Highway 30 for a new transmission line, saying it's necessary to meet growing energy demands, and it plans to replace the trees. Some neighbors and conservationists want PG to find an alternate location, saying the company cannot fully make up for the damage to the forest. We'll keep you posted. Okay, and turns out it was a perfect day to get out in Forest Park, or really any other outdoor spot around the area, as we once again made it into the 70s. Here's a live look over downtown Portland tonight. Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino back with us now. Matt, it feels like we've been getting really lucky this week. How's Friday looking?
It's been a really good streak, and it continues on Friday. Here's sunset at the Oregon coast today. Some great color at the end. Scattered high clouds well offshore. That was about it for cloud cover across the entire state today. We made it up to 72 this afternoon. That's 10 degrees above the average for the day, and tomorrow will be even warmer. It'll be even warmer tomorrow in Portland than it was in Roseburg and Medford today, which were the hot spots in the state. They made it up to 74. Notice how much cooler it is in eastern Oregon. Joseph barely made it out of the 40s this afternoon. Strong northerly flow on the west side of a snowstorm in the Rockies responsible for that cool weather there. But we have a beautiful Friday on the way. It's going to get even warmer, as I mentioned. Showers roll in Saturday morning and then scattered throughout Sunday, but I think Early Sunday morning still looks dry. So some really good weather on the way tomorrow. Things will be deteriorating a bit as we get cooler weather coming in over the weekend. 57 degrees in Portland right now. David, we'll talk more about the weekend next week and the Lyrid meteor shower, which peaks next week, but you may be able to see some shooting stars the next few nights.
Oh, sounds great. Talk to you in a few. Developing tonight, the ACLU has filed a lawsuit on behalf of an Oregon State student who says his student visa was terminated without cause. PhD student Aaron Ortega Gonzalez is a citizen of Mexico. The ACLU says Gonzalez learned about his status after the school checked a federal visa database. They say the lack of justification given follows a pattern under the Trump administration.
Aaron's followed the rules. He's not so much as had a traffic ticket. So again, this sort of arbitrary pattern that we're seeing across the country seems to be at play in Oregon as well.
Gonzalez's current research at OSU focuses on how wildfires impact rangelands. Well, speaking of legal proceedings, there's a new kind of courtroom in Multnomah County. It is where veterans who've been caught up in the criminal justice system have a chance to get help rather than go to jail. Alma McCarty gives us a look at how it works.
After a decade of trying to get this program off the ground,
Veterans face some different challenges and have some different needs than the general population.
Multnomah County now has a Veterans Treatment Court.
It's a tangible program that not only honors our victims, holds offenders accountable, increases our public safety, it also honors our veterans and allows them to get at those root problems of why they're in the criminal justice system to begin with.
Prosecutors and public defenders alike praising the effort.
And it is evidence-based. We've seen treatment courts by and far be the most cost-effective way to reduce recidivism rates.
It's not a new concept in our state.
There are many communities across the nation that do this.
In fact, Washington County has had one since 2018.
Well, what got me in there was domestic violence, and so I was facing 3 years prison.
Thomas Carson, an Army veteran medically discharged after 15 years of service, opted to go the Veterans Treatment Court route, skeptical at first.
But the judge and everybody that was on the team was wonderful. They never treated us like prisoners, never reminded us of the crime we did.
He says all he had to do was take accountability. 2 years later, after connecting to services and support, he graduated, the 34th to do so.
Just one of those good and joyous things when we can get someone across the finish line because we feel like we're really paying a debt to that veteran for what they've done for us.
For those who may be considering this path forward, Carson has this advice.
This here, the guidance, the connection, the help, this is a second chance.
DA Barton tells me that the Veteran Treatment Court program does not apply to every veteran, nor does it apply to every crime. That will also be the case here in Multnomah County. So far, 50 veterans have graduated the program in Washington County. In downtown Portland, Alma McCarty, KGW News.